Playtime with Percy is one of those FNAF fan games that, hold on, isn't a FNAF fan game at all. And I mean that in the best possible way. I would put this game in the same sort of category as maybe the Walton Files. Clearly FNAF inspired, but it very easily stands on its own 2 feet. For quite some time now, I've been seeing this game pop up here and there with everyone talking about just how good it is. While majority call it a masterpiece, some say it's very difficult and frustrating, even going as far as calling it overrated. Okay, like one guy said that, but I needed like an ooh, let's find out sort of thing for the video, you get it. With a charming art style and quite a large roster of characters to boot, this game easily exceeds any and all expectations that you might have for it. But did that one stray Redditor have a point? Is this game too difficult, or were they simply salty? I guess we'll find out. The answer's no. By the way, it's hard, but like, grow up. This sophisticated gentleman is Nick Nicholson, our protagonist and the man we will be playing as throughout our time here at Percy's. Nick is enjoying a nice cold beer when suddenly he gets a phone call from his former boss, John Johnson. John Johnson is calling to offer Nick a temporary position back at Percy's Playhouse, as he used to be a technician for them before he was laid off. However, it's revealed that ever since Nick was laid off, the business started going downhill, and now it's due to be shut down and soon demolished. John wants Nick to watch over Percy's during its final week, to ensure that no one breaks in to steal things, as John is planning on auctioning off several items, including the characters. Nick, understandably confused as to why he was the one being asked to do this, asks what's in it for him. Fair question. And all it took was the promise of $250 and a gift basket to get Nick fully on board. How hard could it be? Nick says. Right off the bat, this game does something that's quite unique amongst FNAF type games, and that is give a fully detailed explanation before you start the night with an optional tutorial. But before that, let's talk about the office. You've got a window in the front and a door on your right. You also have 2 vents either side of the room and your equipment sat in a box opposite you. And in my opinion, the way they've designed this room is really cool. It actually gives off the vibes that this is somewhere children would come to have fun, as opposed to what we can usually come to expect in this genre. I feel like when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, in my opinion, a lot of the time it just feels like a regular-ass pizza restaurant, especially the FNAF 1 location. What kind of 9-year-old wants to hang out at Freddy's? There's like some tables and there's some chairs. Oh, go on, child that I hate, go sit there and play with the party hats. Point is, I just think Percy's feels a lot more child-friendly. The colours are more vibrant and there looks to be a lot more to do. I would love to have spent my school holidays at Percy's. Freddy's, not so much. Also because you'll probably get killed at Freddy's, which does bring its score down a little bit. Once you've picked up your equipment from the box, you are greeted with the pal Percy as well as the pal boy. These will be your best friends when it comes to this game, one in a slightly more literal way, but we'll get into that later. The night system in Playtime with Percy works a little differently to your typical FNAF type game. Usually you would have to sit and survive from 12 to 6 AM, but here, instead the night will conclude once your pal Percy's happiness has reached a specific target. In this case, it's 30. To fill the pal Percy's happiness bar, you must complete one of 3 minigames at random. This includes feeding him, quenching his thirst, or playing a game of catch. However, if you neglect the pal Percy for too long, it'll start beeping and flashing red, meaning it's cranky. To rectify this, complete another minigame and it'll calm down. If it's angry for too long, nothing good will come from it, so don't do that. Now, moving on to the pal boy, aka our camera tablet. Not much to say about this for now. Camera system with cameras, you get it. However, this next part of the tutorial is my absolute favorite. The game introduces us to the first 2 characters, Charlie Cat and Mother Moose. But the way the game introduces them and explains how they work is really cool. Basically, a dummy sign with the character's face on it will show up from either side, along with the game prompting us with what we need to do to counter said character. For Charlie Cat, the objective reads to keep a tool down, which means if Charlie Cat enters the room, we have to stare directly at them and not be distracted by the Percy pal, or the pal boy. The second character, Mother Moose, is the opposite, and you have to keep a tool up and pretend to be distracted when she enters. They will randomize which vent they come from each time, as you can see here with Charlie Cat entering from the right this time. But I absolutely adore this tutorial section. Even the cute little placeholders that are used for Charlie Cat and Mother Moose to help you get used to the mechanics. But that's pretty much it for tonight's tutorial. After that, the night has officially begun. It was fairly quiet because, again, it's the first night, but I found the best strategy with this game was to just completely speedrun the pal Percy's minigames, as like I said earlier, the night ends once the happiness meter is at the designated target, rather than a time clock run out thing. I, however, wasn't aware of doing them that quick because I was very paranoid. I didn't know if the vent characters made noises or anything before entering, so I was just looking left and right and left and right. But then my pal Percy started yelling at me, so I had to catch some bones or something. Suddenly, I heard a vent noise coming from the left. Someone was coming, but I didn't know who. or when. Turns out this will be the first sound cue that plays when someone has entered the vent, and it indicates that while they are on the way, they aren't necessarily a threat just yet. Again, I assumed the worst and just kept looking from vent to vent waiting for someone to pop out, then boom, Mother Moose makes her first entrance. In case you can't remember, for Mother Moose you must act busy by using the Pal Percy or the Pal Boy. I panicked and put down the Pal Percy and pulled up the Pal Boy, even though they both would have worked, but whatever. I promise I get better at this game. Speaking of the Pal Boy, it is useless for the first couple nights. There is no need to use it until a character that comes later forces you to use it. The second time around was Charlie Cat, and if you remember, he loves eye contact for some reason. Although I don't think you actually have to look at him, you just have to ensure that you aren't preoccupied by the Pal Boy or Pal Percy. And that about does it for night 1, or I guess Monday. But wait, it's time for a bonus round! This fun little post-night minigame has us listing the animatronics up for auction. The aim of this minigame is to find an offer that matches the asking price for each animatronic. You cycle through the offers by rejecting the current one. For some reason, however, every time you reject an offer, you must input a randomized number into the keypad, and if you mess up this number, then it'll make you reconnect to the Wi-Fi, which just adds time, I guess. Once you've entered the numbers, then it will show the next offer, and so on and so forth. However, this isn't the only issue that you'll have to deal with. If you suddenly hear loud banging footsteps, quickly press E to hide under the desk and let Charlie Cat pass through. Honestly, this section isn't too difficult, just find an offer that matches and hide when you hear a noise. However, halfway through, gets real. Because Charlie Cat isn't joking around and doesn't plan to let you win. The screen is now distorted and pop-ups will appear occasionally. Not to mention you now have to input a 4-digit number to proceed rather than 2. And Charlie will show up a lot more now. Overall, this is a super neat section, but it also gives us our first look at some more of the characters. We've got Percy Poodle, Mother Moose, Charlie Cat, Farmer Felix, and Rowan Rat. Keep in mind this isn't even anywhere close to all of the characters, it's a start, though. After these post-night sections finish, that's right, I said sections, like multiple, it'll give you a rating based on how well you did. And honestly, I feel like I did fairly well. I mean, sure, I could have been a little faster, but my guess is maybe a B or an A if the game is Moving swiftly on to night 2, or Tuesday, we now have a new tool at our disposal, the Simon Says machine, which is used to fend off against our next friendly face, Farmer Felix. Going into this, I was kind of half praying that the animatronics we auctioned off would actually be gone in the later nights, but why would they? It was the first night and we'd seen none of them yet, so that was dumb from me. Farmer Felix has super cool gamer RGB eyeballs that will change to a random color. When he walks past the window, change the color on your Simon Says machine to match Farmer Felix's eyes. And if you let him walk past the window fully without choosing a color or choosing the wrong color, then he will trip the power and kill you. Fairly simple mechanic, but if you're preoccupied by the dozens of other things that happen later, then it can be tricky. But for now, he's a peach. He just wants to play Simon Says, and I love that for him. Next up, never fear, because the main poodle himself has appeared. Well, a poodle. Not at all the main one, but it's a poodle. A poodle will show up outside your window if you don't complete the Pal Percy tasks frequently enough, so watch out. Farmer Felix is basically a non-existent problem this early in the game as he just slowly walks past. And because not much else is going on, you can counter him right away because you're just focused on him. You might also notice that the target happiness for tonight has increased by 5. This will happen every night from now on to make it just that smidge harder. Honestly, Tuesday was pretty easy. It's the second night. But it felt easier than Monday night did, mostly due to the fact that I actually understand how Mother Moose and Charlie Cat work now. Basically, they play 2 sound cues. One when they actually enter the vent for the first time, and then when they enter your office, they will make another one. Not only that, but they will appear on opposite sides to each other. Say for instance, Charlie Cat appeared on the left. I would immediately then turn to the right and start doing stuff on the Pal Percy, as Mother Moose would show up on the left, and you just ignore her. The poodle in the hallway, I barely know what they do as I didn't get a chance to find out since I'm a good boy who keeps up with all his Pal Percy tasks. Don't worry though, we will come back to the poodles. Anyways, after night 2 comes more mandatory overtime. These are gonna be a nightly thing if you couldn't tell. Tonight we have to beat the high score on this arcade cabinet because, oh, it's being taken away in the morning. Okay? Why? The objective for this section is, like I mentioned, beat the current high score, which is 6,000. However, it isn't quite that simple, because why would it be? If we hear a noise, we must pause the game and turn around. Doing so will reveal that we are in a room with a ball pit in the corner, a giant-ass typical FNAF game air vent, and a door to the left. Once turned around, if you heard a noise, then you must use your camera flash to scare off Mother Moose. Now, I know this sounds super simple, right? Play basic video game, listen out for noises, press E, very simple, right? The answer is still yes. However, for some reason, I struggled a lot more than I should have. Something that should have taken me 2 attempts max, for some reason took me 7 attempts to beat. And for the life of me, I cannot explain why. Maybe I just suck. I just suck at games. Okay, so let's talk about the actual arcade machine. You have 4 hearts, and if you collide with an enemy spaceship or an asteroid, then you will lose a life. Same goes for if you get shot by an enemy spaceship. You can also collect power-ups that will give you a bonus life or a shield. When your hearts reach 0, then Mother Moose will ensure that your heart beats 0 times a second. Because you're dead. Once you hit the halfway point, it'll activate the scary spooky hard mode, much like it did with the auction minigame. This time around, however, Mother Moose will take 2 camera flashes to get rid of rather than 1, and she will appear much more frequently. Once you beat the high score, the arcade machine freaks the f out and blue screens. Okay, I know I didn't do that great on the mini. Yeah, that tracks. Moving on to Wednesday night, the first thing you might notice is that Pal Percy looks a little unhappy. But I'm sure that's fine. I bet doing the tasks as normal will suffice, and this won't have any long-lasting consequences down the road. Anyways, tonight, a new tool is at our disposal. Kind of. By tool, it means the lock on the door. We are living in the future. When you hold left click down on the door, then it will stay locked. Letting it go will leave it unlocked fairly simple. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, why do we have to lock the door? Who is important enough to need a door lock on? Percy McFing-Poodle himself is here. That's right, it's the guy who has his name in the game, so he is important. Percy Poodle will appear at the window and slowly make his way to your door. When he reaches the door, he will start banging on it trying to enter. And when this happens, what do you f***ing think? You lock the door. If you leave it too late, however, then you will lose the ability to lock the door and Percy will break in and kill you. Oh, but who the f*** is that? This little fella is actually a part of a group of 3 called the Playful Poodles. They are a trio of mischievous troublemakers who love to mess with you, so look forward to that. If Tot appears at the door, then all you have to do is hold click on it and shut it on them. They'll run away immediately. If you hadn't noticed yet, things are definitely starting to pile on. So far, the active characters are Mother Moose, Charlie Cat, Farmer Felix, Percy Poodle, and 1/3 of the Playful Poodles. Well, actually, it's 2/3 of the Playful Poodles, because that poodle that shows up in the hallway, that's actually Tat. So yeah, it's only the 3rd night and there are 6 active characters on the 3rd night. Okay, I know I just spent a while complaining about how many active characters there are, but Wednesday wasn't that hard either. Mostly just an increase in difficulty. Percy Poodle is very easy to deal with, since he has like 5 stages he moves in before he actually reaches your door. So it's not like you won't know he's coming, you just have to plan around it. When you hit the happiness target for the night, the power will shut off, which leads us into our post-shift minigame. Tonight we have to restore the power to all 6 sections of the building by completing 2 different task game things per sector. I say task game things because I don't know what kind of Looney Tunes ass building needs you to solve a maze puzzle to restore power, but what do I know? This section is fairly simple. Complete fun little mini games to turn the power back on. But wait, there's more! Yeah, of course we can turn around, and for some reason there are 4 McDonald's playground ass tunnels in the walls. Much like the previous post-night section, if you hear a noise while fixing the power, turn around and flash whatever's there. This time, however, it's Rowan Rat, who will appear in one of the 4 rat tunnels at random. To get rid of him, simply hold your flashlight on him and he will descend back down into the tunnels. Moving on, there are 4 different types of puzzles this section will ask you to complete. And like I said earlier, there are 6 sectors of the building that require 2 completed puzzles each, so 12 in total. For the first puzzle, you have to match the colored squares and push them into their corresponding area thingy, just match the colors basically. The next puzzle is Escape the Maze. Pretty straightforward as the name suggests, escape the maze to move on. Now, once you reach the halfway point, the game glitches and Rowan Rat is no longer f***ing about. Now whenever you flash him with your light, he will move to another spot immediately after, meaning you have to find and flash him twice each time. During the second half, there are 2 new types of minigames added. First up is a collect the power minigame, where you have to collect all the little lightning bolt things while you dodge bullets coming from enemies on the side. And last but not least is dodge the bullets, which is just the other minigame, but easier I guess, where you simply have to stay alive until the timer runs out. And also, once you've reached that hard mode halfway point, it'll start making changes to the other minigame bits. In the maze, now you have to dodge bullets, and the color one is kind of just glitchy, so it doesn't really make it harder. But with that section completed, I really started to wonder. Either it's impossible to score higher than an F, or I just really suck at this game. I don't think I want the answer to that. Okay, I got curious and I googled it, and you can get up to an S. oops. Okay, it's time-based, I'm not a speedrunner. As we are on our way out of the building, we call to leave the boss a message, saying that we're halfway done with his favor so far and that it hasn't been that bad, aside from the weird malfunctioning animatronics. Nick brings up the fact that he noticed our pal Percy has been acting super weird, that every night something seems to be different with him, but he immediately dismisses it and ends the call, saying he'll make contact again on Friday. On our way out, Nick notices something on the floor next to the main entrance that apparently wasn't there before. It's some kind of disc. We are then presented with the option to take the disc home, and you know me, I'm a curious bastard, so of course I took it. Back home, after a while of tinkering with the disc to get it to work, Nick gives up and decides to head to bed. How do you not own a Blu-ray player? But of course, the disc magically works as soon as Nick leaves the room. So whatever we see next is something our own main character won't be aware of. Ah, yep, of course, it's a recall notice for the Pal Percy electronic toys. Nick, get back in here, you might want to see this. Apparently, customers who bought this product reported that the toy posed a dangerous threat to children if it was left on for an extended period of time or used frequently. The image changes and the Pal Percy has just one singular eye in the center of its face. Creepy. The message continues, saying that Paltronics puts your child first, and that their safety is of the utmost importance. It then goes on to ask the viewer to dispose of the toy immediately or call the number on screen. That's great to know, our trusty right-hand man and our pal is fucking cursed. The message concludes saying that the Pal Percy is now discontinued and will no longer be sold. God knows how old this recording is, by the way. This was probably made when Percy's was at its peak and not when it's about to shut down. Thursday is here, and once again we have a new tool at our disposal. We now have a radar system built into the cameras, which is specifically put in place to deal with our first new addition to this night, Rowan Rat. I absolutely despise Rowan Rat. Up until this point in the game, I had not died once in the actual night sections, that is, until this sucker showed up. Apparently, the radar system allows us to detect movement underground in the corners of the establishment. Yes, you heard me, this motherfucker digs underground to get to us. What the hell am I playing? If the radar text turns red, shock the corresponding cam. Same goes for if you physically see him on the camera. If you don't shock him in time, he will disable your camera system completely for the rest of the night. You're done. The main problem comes from the fact that Rowan is so very easy to miss unless you're constantly monitoring the radar. And like I said earlier, it wasn't pertinent at all to even touch the camera, as there wasn't a need to. You could deal with everyone externally, but now that changes. Not just because of Rowan, but also because tonight's second special guest, Tim of the Playful F***ing Poodles, is here. Tim will appear on a random character indicated by a flashing alert above the Palboy icon in the bottom left corner. To counter him, you must find him on the cameras and stare him down. The problem is that he's usually hidden away in one of the corners, meaning he's super easy to miss. And if you don't find him quick enough, then he will also cut the camera's connection, leaving you vulnerable to Rowan Rat. Basically, between Rowan and Tim, you just have to pray that they show up as little as possible, or else you can kiss your camera goodbye. This is the night where everything actually starts going to shit. My first death was actually to Mother Moose. This clip here shows off just how easy it is to die when things overlap even slightly. Mother Moose entered, I pulled up my Pal Percy, but then Tot entered the room. So I quickly had to put down the Pal Percy and close the door, but Mother Moose killed me because I put it down. My second f***up was my cameras getting cut due to my inability to find Tim on the cameras. And the only reason I had to stop looking for Tim was because Tot came in and opened the door. Are you sensing the theme here? These little shits are ruining everything, and because my camera got cut, Rowan was able to tunnel his way into the room because of course he fucking was! Okay, so if you couldn't tell, this means that all 3 members of the Playful Poodles are now active. I like to imagine that they're like little bowling pins and how fun it would be to line them up and throw bowling balls at them, or just throw them off a cliff, actually. 4 deaths later, I finally managed to beat Thursday. I actually ended up winning with my cameras completely cut and Rowan on the way. The strategy seems to be that when your cameras get disabled, you need to completely give up on self-preservation and hard focus the Pal Percy, as that's the only thing that'll get you through to the next night. When my cameras got disabled, I had 20 out of 45 happiness points on my Pal Percy, but I still managed to win. This means that Tim cut my power rather than Rowan, because if it was Rowan, then he would be in my office right away. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, Pal Percy is looking up tonight. He's got that big goofy smile, it's not good. Anyways, Thursday night ends with Farmer Felix collapsing outside your window and onto the floor. I didn't get to see this because he decided to do it off screen, because of course he did. Thursday night's post-shift 2 minigame has us perform maintenance on the recently stumbled over on his face, Farmer Felix. The game instructs us to undo the bolts in the back of Farmer Felix's head and to initiate the repairs inside his head. Now for some reason we kind of like insert our head into the back of Felix's, like, a VR headset. To repair Farmer Felix, we have to beat, you guessed it, a bunch of puzzles. Like, if you applied here to be a technician at Percy's, then they'd probably just ask you to solve a Rubik's Cube. The game warns us that if we hear any noises, press E to leave and click on anything attached to him. But I'm sure there wouldn't be any. Oh, nah. These mischievous little shitheads will appear all over Felix's body. They will play a sound cue when they appear, and to remove them, you must click on them and they will retreat. If you don't get rid of them in time, then they will apparently steal a part of Felix and run off with it. Okay. First minigame is a color matching game, where we have to match the correct colored gear with the little thingies 3 times over. Second minigame is a game of Simon Says. It'll flash colors and you have to repeat them back in that same order. I, however, got insanely lucky as mine flashed blue 4 times. And of course, since we're halfway through, hard mode has now activated and the playful poodles will need to be clicked twice before they will leave. The next minigame is just a crankin' section. This took me a second because it turns out it doesn't like it when you crank the crank too fast, so everyone comment Felix is cranking it. Or don't, actually. And finally, we need to match 2 lines of code. For example, a matching pair would be, when moving jaw, open 5 times. You'll need to find 5 correct matches before you can continue. Once you've done that, you can reboot Felix, and thus concludes this section. And I suck at this game. I keep getting, I get Fs every time. Friday, the final night. Pal Percy still has a blank face with a creepy grin, but as you may have noticed, there's no tutorial for this night. That's because no new characters are joining the fray, and instead, all we have to do is reach a happiness target of 50, which is easier said than done. That means tonight, the current roster consists of Mother Moose, Charlie Cat, Farmer Felix, Percy Poodle, Tim, Tat, and Tot, and Rowan Rat. The gang is all here. My first death was to Rowan Rat because fucking... Second death was the Mother Moose because Farmer Felix cut the power while I was looking for Tim again. Now, this next run was going really well. I was making steady progress and I only had about 30 left to go. And then Tim cut my cameras! But I thought I would keep trying to win before Rowan got to me, and to my surprise, I was nearly there. And then I wasn't. 48 out of 50 happiness points. Okay, so in case you aren't aware of how the happiness point distribution works in this game, I needed 1 more minigame, or maybe 2. It honestly depends, I don't know how it works, but it could have been 1 more minigame. Genuinely, the best strategy I had for dealing with Rowan was just praying he didn't appear, which admittedly isn't the greatest plan, but it was all I had. Thankfully, this paid off in the round after that as he disabled my cameras much later on into the night, so I was able to get away with it. Shift complete, but you aren't done yet. After we finish our shift, we get a phone call from the boss. He says that he didn't think the animatronics would be an issue, as he had someone come in to repair them before we started. However, everyone was repaired except for Percy Poodle. The boss asks if we could fix him up quickly before we leave, but before we get a chance to respond, he hangs up. This section starts with us sat face to face with Percy Poodle himself. To start repairs, first we have to loosen Percy's collar and open up his chest. And once we open up his chest cavity, the game instructs us to get to the 3rd layer of Percy's battery. By of course, solving a bunch of puzzles. I have a degree now in puzzles. Once you complete all the puzzles, Percy just starts smoking. Oh, that can't be good. We ring the boss to tell him that we just up his main attraction, and he tells us to find a spare battery, or even to find a substitute battery, following which he says he'll see us soon and hangs up. Nick sighs and asks where he's possibly going to find a new battery, when suddenly the Pal Percy starts beeping. And in response to this, Nick has the bright idea to use the Pal Percy as a substitute battery. You know, the thing that's probably cursed? It's putting it into a tangible body? Also, I have no idea how this even remotely works. He just slots it in there and now it's got a big creepy eyeball thing, but hey, substitute accepted. That could only be a good thing, right? And the credits roll. No, I'm not kidding. But wait, before you click off, don't fear, it's a cop-out. The credits start to change, and last I checked, no one is named substitute accepted ... or processing data ... And if you are, then I'm sorry, you probably had a horrible childhood. But then, out of nowhere, someone reaches across the screen and rips the credit screen back to reveal that Percy Poodle is now covered in wires. Following this, the Pal Percy decides to go all Omega Flowy on us and proceeds to laugh at our stupidity. I mean, realistically, it's kind of on us, the player, for not warning our protagonist about the evil Pal Percy. So just remember that for the next time you come across an evil Tamagotchi toy. The screen fades to black and Nick asks what the hell that was. Pretty decent question, I think. He then proceeds to jinx himself by saying how glad he is that he got out of there. Nick finds a light switch and it reveals that we have indeed landed ourselves in an old storage room. Right away, Nick realizes that he needs to find a way to shut that thing down, but how? I mean, there has to be something around here that can help, right? And there it is. an early model PAL sitting in the box in front of you. Okay, so the way that this section of the game works is very different to the rest, and I will try to explain to the best of my abilities. Basically, your new target happiness goal for the old PAL, or early model PAL, EMP, is 25, and every time that you reach 25, you will be given a charge. In order to stop the rogue PAL, you must get 5 charges in total, and with each charge comes an extra helping of bullshit. First things first, let's talk about our new PAL, or I guess old PAL. This time around, the mini-games are different. There's a maze escape game, a match the shapes game, and a fishing game, so, you know, fairly straightforward. First up is the main antagonist himself, PAL, who's taking control of a bunch of other Tamagotchis, I'll get into that later, with his main host being Percy Poodle himself. I don't know why I said that, like it's like Venom. Like, oh, we are Percy, that's not very intimidating, is it? When either one of the TVs on the wall lights up, you need to find PAL on the cameras. He will ask you for something, and when he does, you have to find said something. It's usually just a random shape that appears on one of the cameras. Unfortunately though, you have to find PAL before you search for his requested item, as it won't show up otherwise. If you fail to find his desired item in time, then he will kill you. Shocker. Okay, so it turns out that if you don't use your early model PAL frequently enough, it will grow limbs and turn into Tamalanky, who will jump scare and kill you. Okay, like I said earlier, after each charge you complete, a new mechanic, or 7, will be added into the mix. With charge 2 comes a couple of annoying mechanics, but starting with the one that's actually crucial to our survival, with the ability to make use of the 2 office carts that appear on the left and the right wall. You can click and drag on these carts to move them around, and I'll explain why you need to do that in a moment. But don't worry, the next character to be added is... the playful poodles are now the poodle pals. I don't know if they're separate entities or not, but they're still the little fucks that they have always been. If Tim jumps into your office, simply hit him with the cart to kill him, and I gotta say that felt really good. Failure to deal with Tim immediately won't result in your death, but he will instead worsen your controls, making it harder to defend yourself. Okay, this next character isn't that bad. Tamabruti will start banging on your wall in order to gain access to your room. To counter this, move the cart in front of whichever wall you hear the noise coming from, and it will stop them from breaking it down. Okay, at the beginning of charge 3, PAL will come and bang on the door directly, trying to get in. Hold the door shut when you hear him approaching from down the hall. It's basically the same as countering Percy in the normal night. This next character, they're not as bad as the Poodle Pals in terms of my distaste for them, but I really don't like this next character either, and I can't even explain why. Tama Opti will start in the middle camera and slowly rise from the giant sinkhole thing, and when it's out, it will appear in a random camera ready to enter your room. In order to prevent that, you must locate them and give them an electric shock. Basically, they're just a reiteration of Row and Rat, which is probably why I hate them so much. If you fail to zap Tama Opti, then they will gain access to your room and drop down from the hole in the roof, ultimately killing you. Also, something else I forgot to mention, which I think is amazing. There are checkpoints for this section. Every time you fill up a charge, it unlocks a new save point, so if you die, you don't have to do the entire thing over again, which is a godsend. After you complete the 3rd charge, PAL drops down from the ceiling and starts talking to us. Okay, so with the 4th charge, roaches will now begin to spawn from above our room. Oh, sorry, I meant the Tamarochis. If you hadn't noticed by now, basically every Tamagotchi-related hellspawn has Tama in their name, which is fitting, I suppose. The Tamarochis will attach themselves to the screen and obstruct your view. Simply click and drag them across your screen to throw them away, otherwise they will swarm and kill you instantly. Next up is another goddamn f***ing Poodle Pal. This time it's Tat. Again! Who invited you? Tat will show up on a random camera and mess with your vision. The longer you leave it, the worse it gets. To counter them, you have to drop whatever you're doing, because big f***ing inconvenience, and search for them on the camera. If you fail to locate them, then your vision will worsen further over time, and Tat will go on to lock up your carts, leaving you just completely vulnerable to Tim and Tamabruti. The biggest issue when it comes to Tat is the fact that they are so easy to miss on the cameras. They hide in the corner, and it doesn't help that, to a certain degree, every single character in this section of the game shares the same color palette, and there's like 7 of them. Alright, moving on to the 5th and final charge. Fear not, for PAL has one last trick up his sleeves. If he drops down from above and shoves his ugly mug into your face, you'll need to memorize where the ball is and guess the correct cup. If you get it right, he will start to cry and retreat back into the ceiling. If you get it wrong, then yeah, you get it. You die. Tot is also here. All f***ing 3 of them! Tot will occasionally appear on the TV screens. Simply click on the television when they appear to prevent your devices from malfunctioning. After completing the final charge, you must survive an additional 70 seconds until the building's power is fully shut down. The lights will start to dim during this final phase, making it much harder to see. And with the room slowly fading to black, we have officially beaten Friday morning. And how nice it gave me an F for Friday. Oh, thank you, game. I finally get it now. Is it over? Do they know I'm still in here? I need to get out and leave. However I can. Is that thing still after me? What are those things? Are they dead now? Can I get out of here? All excellent questions, Nick. No, you can't. Pal bursts through the door and calls us a prick. He's a prick. Pal goes on to say that
we were supposed to be best pals, Nick. I was supposed to stick by you forever and ever. And now you're just going to leave me.
Pal gives Nick a final chance to take them with him, that they can be best pals forever. After all, that's what Pal Percys were made for. And then Nick with the f***ing steel chair says, no, I'm not taking you with me. Pal tells Nick to suit himself before wrapping him up in wires. He says he gave Nick a chance, but now it looks like he'll have to end this friendship himself. Permanently. Oh no, that's murder. Pal starts laughing to himself maniacally when suddenly he gets hit by a wrecking ball. No, I'm not kidding. He gets hit by a wrecking ball that slammed through the wall. Pal gets knocked out of Percy's battery slot and onto the floor where he begs for our help. And since Pal is no longer inside of Percy, his control over the wires and other characters disappear. Nick looks down at Pal before deciding to just walk away, as Pal lays on the ground screaming and carrying on like a child. Nick is a much better man than me. Like, he's just a little Tamagotchi. You could just squish him. As we escape from the crumbled building, we see our boss yelling out and calling us over. Turns out the building demolition was due to start, well, now. Hence the wrecking ball and stuff. Nick walks over to John and starts yelling about how no one told him that the Pal Percy could do all that. He told him about the wires and the living Tamagotchis, and the boss's response to this, however, is that they can't do that. They were all recalled. He goes on to explain that the Pal Percy toys went absolutely crazy the more people use them, and that they never found out why, but it's assumed that it's because they share the same batteries that they use in the robots. Yeah, okay. But it turns out all Pal Percys were destroyed. But I guess one just slipped through the cracks, I guess. Nick stares off at the demolished Percy's playhouse, before being pulled back to reality with the boss asking if we want to go grab some food. He agrees before leaving Percy's for the final time. And that's it. We beat the game. In the credits section, you can see what happens to all of the animatronics, with photos showing off where they ended up after being auctioned. Mostly being repurposed for other companies, so I'll let these credits play out as I talk, as I want to give as much recognition as I possibly can to the people involved in the creation of this game, as it was just phenomenal. I adore this game. This might be one of my favorite games, not even like in the FNAF sphere, I mean top 10 of all time. The art style, the characters, the music, it's all so well done and has an incredible level of love and care put into each little detail. And the fact that this experience is just completely free, it just blows my mind. They should sell this. This should go on Steam. It's so good. But before we end, I just want to let you know that I've decided on a new metric for rating these games. It's called the Mega Meaty Ratings Board of Fun, trademark. Overall, Playtime with Percy scores a perfect 10 out of 10 on the Mega Meaty Rating Boards of Fun, trademark, because in my eyes, it's just perfect. While this game is definitely difficult at times, especially Friday night and Friday morning, I don't think it's unfair at all or too difficult. It's definitely not overrated. Like the guy at the beginning said, see, callback, it's like a full circle thing. See why I mentioned it? And that's coming from someone who died 20 times on Friday morning alone. Like, it's hard, but it doesn't take away from the experience, even remotely. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the longer video, then let me know. I'm thinking about shifting to maybe a bi-weekly upload schedule with longer videos, so let me know your thoughts. But thank you and have a lovely day.